Hey guys, DJ here at Top 10 Cards and Games with another Exodus video. If you guys didn't watch the first Exodus video that I posted, which was a gameplay basics, it just went over the steps of the game, the types of cards, how the game worked. Exodus is a new game that we saw at Gen Con Indy this year. We thought it was really sick, and we're definitely trying to support the game, and we wanted to do really well. So, if you guys have any interest, feel free to check it out. I'm going to drop a link to their Facebook page down below. We're going to be carrying the game in our store, and we really want to have some interest generated for it. So give this a watch, give the other video a watch. Let me know what you guys think down below if you have any questions about the game. Yeah, like I said, the last video I did was just gameplay basics. So in this one, I'm going to go over the deck building basics, basically the deck building requirements, some tips. Going to tell you guys which cards are more or less staples. And just do a quick deck profile for a deck that you're going to see played in a gameplay video with me and Ethan. First off, I mentioned the energy cards as they are the key component of the game. How you pay for your spells, how you power up your creatures, basically how you do everything. Energy just comes as one thing. There are just energy cards, and you have 20 of them. You get a stack of 20. Every turn you get 3, and if you get rid of an energy, it just goes back into your stack. They are all the same. You have 20 of them. You get 20 in a starter deck. You don't have to do any thinking after that. Your deck is also 20 cards, and you get to play 2 copies of cards. I'm going to start with the spells here because I just want to go over some of the spells that I think are more or less staples. The 2 right off the bat that are the most important cards in the game, I think, are Unsummon and Vortex. Unsummon is a card that lets you pay an energy and return an opponent's or either player's creature. I keep saying opponents because I've never bounced my own with Unsummon. But you pay an energy, return a creature to its owner's hand, and then discard all the energies that were under it. Unsummon lets you get such gigantic tempo swings. It lets you avoid most creatures' abilities. Not necessarily avoid them, but like if their ability was combat related or gave them extra energies, you get to get rid of their energies. So it just does everything for you. You always end up on tempo, end up on energy. It's just always a really positive trade. Vortex is a card that's actually kind of problematic. I'll be very blunt with you guys. We think it's the best card in the game from our testing. Vortex lets you pay an energy, both players discard their hands and then draw 3 cards. The reason the Vortex is a problematic card is that you can play it in your opponent's energy phase. So after they add their energies to their hand, so they draw their 3 cards for turn, add their 3 energies to their hand, you can play Vortex at that point in the game to make them discard their hand, including their energy cards. So you basically deny them all of their mana for the turn. And they draw 3 new regular cards, but they don't get any more energy. These are the 2 best spell cards in the game, and I'd be hard-pressed to find a reason to not include them in my deck instantly when I start deck building. There's another couple spells that I think are pretty close to staples. Those 2 are Dueling Drifters and Crystal Cove. Dueling Drifters is a fairly basic hand control spell. It lets you look at your opponent's hand and put a card on top of their deck. It's a very strong ability that lets you scout the way before you make a play. On your opponent's turn, you can play to deny their plays. Basically, you can just do everything with it. You can play it proactively, you can play it defensively. It gives you the information to play around the rest of their hand, as well as setting them back on tempo since they're forced to draw a card they already saw during their next turn. Sometimes you can just put a blank back on top of their deck to deny them an extra card. That's never a bad trade for you. Crystal Cove is pay an energy, select a symmetry that's in play, so symmetry that's either on the stack or something that had a lingering effect that was sitting in play. And then you freeze that card, which means you flip it face down and its effects aren't applied until the end of its owner's next turn. The reason this card is so key is because it negates these cards. It lets you trade more positively with Vortex and Unsummon. And I think these 8 cards are just absolute staples for the game. These are all in the starter decks. These cards come in the set 1 starters, the Angel and Dragon starters. These cards come in the set 2 starters. These are actually both from the Shardfolk starter, if I'm not mistaken. They're all starter deck cards, so you don't have to worry about getting them out of packs or pulling them. The other spells that I'm playing are called Leech and Energize. These cards both let you get an energy advantage over your opponent. Like I said, you only get the 3 each turn, and you can only play stacks of up to 3. These cards both let you get extra energy. Leech is actually a much better card. It's pretty close to a staple, though I could see an argument for cutting it for certain cards or in certain decks. Leech gets rid of one of your opponent's energies, so you remove one from either a stack they have in play or one of their creatures that's in play, and then you put an energy onto either a creature you control or onto a stack of energy you control. So you can get your energy stacks over 3 that way. You can get rid of an energy on your opponent's cards. If your opponent has a creature that only has 1 energy on it, you can get rid of the energy and just kill that creature. Just overall, really strong card. Energize doesn't get rid of your opponent's energy, but it just puts an energy from your energy stack onto either a creature you have in play or just onto a pile of energy you have. So it's just another way that you can get ahead of your opponent on energy. Because energy is the stats of the creature, this is a really nice combat trick. Your opponent will swing into what they think are favorable trades. You get an extra energy, so your creature survives, theirs dies, and you still have the leftover energy on your creature. The other nice thing about these cards is if your opponent vortexes you, you can play them in response to get some energy into play. That's why I think that these are really good cards. Basically, though, going through here, my spells were all generic, and that's because, like I said, I think these 8, debatably these 10, are just staples that every deck should have in them right now. And that's partially just because the game has a small card pool. You know, there's 2 starter deck sets and then 1 booster pack set. There are some flex spots, like I said. You could definitely consider cutting Leech, and the Energizers are far from necessary. But overall, you guys are going to see this as we do more and more deck profiles. You're going to see a lot of the same spells. To some people, that might be considered a downside, but it is a fairly new game, and that's just really common in new games. If you were a Yu-Gi-Oh player when Legend of Blue Eyes came out, I can't imagine you would have seen a deck that didn't have Pot of Greed and Lightning Vortex, Regeki in it. Those cards were staples. If you were a Magic player, you know, I'm sure you're all familiar with Ancestral Vision or Ancestral Recall. Gosh, I'm not nailing it with card names today. Lightning Bolt, those types of cards. Iconic cards, really strong cards when a game is new, and these are very strong cards from the beginning of this game. They're very powerful, but I don't think they're necessarily problematic. That being said, there's a lot of variety in the creature lineups. I have currently built a Shardfolk deck that uses the synergy of the Shardfolk creatures. Basically, the Shardfolk are all about freezing, so they can freeze your opponent's cards, just like I showed you the symmetry that freezes your opponent's symmetries. The creatures can freeze your opponent's creatures or gain some advantages for having them frozen. The first one is Starship Galacia. Galacia is a creature that when it comes into play, you freeze one of your opponent's creatures, and we have 2 copies of that. So if you freeze their creature, its effects aren't active anymore, it flips face down, it's just a body with stats equal to the energy on it. So you get to stun your opponent's creatures, they can't attack until the end of their next turn, and they don't have their abilities active. The next one we have is Awakened Star Glacier. Awakened Star Glacier is very similar to Starship, except basically it freezes creatures equal to the difference in creatures on each side of the field. So if my opponent had 2 creatures in play, and I played my Awakened Starship, I could freeze one of their creatures. If they had 3 creatures in play and I played my Awakened Star Glacier, I could freeze 2 of their creatures. It leaves your opponent and you with the same number of unfrozen creatures. So these are how we're freezing our opponent's cards. It's just a way to get some tempo and make the board a little more favorable for you. The creature that really takes advantage of that is Chief Bandit. Chief Bandit gets an extra energy when you play him for each frozen card in play. So we're looking to freeze some of our opponent's creatures with these abilities, then play Chief Bandit so that we can get a little bit ahead on energy. And additionally, if we freeze a Symmetry with Crystal Cove and then play him, we can also get some more energy. There are some Symmetry cards that freeze, and I've considered playing some of them at different points to take more advantage of Chief Bandit. But right now, this is the freeze line that I've found to be the most effective. Our last creature, which could be a number of other creatures as well, but he's what I've been using right now, is I honestly don't actually know his name. Starbound Glacier. Starbound Glacier is a creature that can't attack, which might sound bad at first, but his ability is really strong. At the start of each of your turns, he gets an extra energy. You just attach one to him. So every turn you're growing it bigger and bigger. Your opponent has to go through it before they can deal damage to you, and you can use those extra energies in order to pay for your Symmetry cards, so you're never at a loss on energy. It might not be the strongest card, but it is the card that I've chosen to use in my last creature slot. I'm playing 8 creatures, which I think is fairly standard. You draw 3 cards a turn, so I think at 8 you're fairly likely to see one. I haven't actually done any math on it, it's just what felt intuitive. I think 7 would also be acceptable, though you might miss on creatures. It's in a weird place, actually, where as far as like a deck building recommendation, you more or less always want to have a creature every turn because you want to make sure you're using your energy, and you can pay for your symmetries using energy off of your creatures. So you always want to make sure you're putting your energy in play and using it. At least that's how we found the best way to play the game is. So you want to have the best odds of hitting a creature every turn, but you really don't want to draw 2 unless you're in a specific board state where 2 would be super beneficial. The way around this is I like drawing 2 if I'm drawing Starship or Starbound Glacier, and a Chief Bandit, because then I'm getting a bonus for having these creatures. I'm getting extra energy. And Starbound Glacier doesn't really help that too much, so maybe we want to cut a copy of him for a different creature, or who knows, maybe it's the right choice. But that's just the first deck profile I'm going to do for you guys. It's a pretty cool deck. I've had a lot of fun playing it. Ethan will do a profile for you guys as well. I'll show you the deck that he won the tournament at Gen Con with. It was a really nice list, and he has some really cool plays you can do with it. So I think you guys will be interested in that one as well. And then you guys can check out our gameplay video where we're going to play against each other using the 2 decks we show you, and you can see which deck you like more. If you have questions about the deck or about any other cards in the game, let us know down below. Like I said, I definitely want to talk a lot about the game. Something that we care a lot about is helping new games grow and take off. So, if you guys have any interest at all or have any questions, let us know. Check out Exodus on Facebook. They're really great people. We want to help them out as well. Thanks a ton for watching, guys. We'll have more content coming soon.